Thank you very much. Welcome to our May 7th council meeting. We'll start with the adoption of an agenda. Seconded. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor? And do we have Councillor Elliott online?
Yeah, that's later on. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Passed unanimously. We will motion to close the meeting to the public. Oh, yes.
Sorry, Your Worship, we have on the screen additional grounds for closing the meeting, which include 91A, personal information about an individual, and D, security of the property of the municipality, and we're adding F, law enforcement, and N, which is the consideration of whether a council meeting should be closed under a provision of the subsection of the Act. So that would be in respect of a matter that we expect to be requested, and then council will consider whether or not it's appropriate to hear that matter in closed meeting. So you'll decide those things when you get to when you convene the closed meeting and consider the adoption of the closed agenda. But we need to lay the groundwork here.
Yeah. Do you care to move the motion?
I can move it. Move that council moved into a closed meeting to discuss matters covered by the community charter under sections 90 part 1. A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. D, the security of the property of the municipality. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of council, would reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. F, law enforcement, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of investigation under or enforcement of an enactment. And N, the consideration of whether a council meeting should be closed under a provision of the subsection or subsection 2.
Aye. Councillor Southcott, any further discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. We will reconvene at 7 p.m. Yeah.
Good.
Welcome. We're going to reconvene our meeting. I'm going to start with territorial acknowledgement that we're holding this on the traditional lands of the Kalama Nation. Public and statutory hearings, and then to the public input period. So I think most of you in the gallery tonight realize that if you wish to come forward for the public input period, it has to deal with items dealing with legislative matters, committee recommendations, and new business, which are on our agenda. Would anybody like to come forward at this time? Please come forward.
So my name's Ellen Gould. I'm president of Energy Democracy for BC. I'm speaking to item 14.2 on your agenda, which is Powell River Energy Inc. intervener status. So I'd obviously encourage the city to apply for intervener status. One of the reasons for that is it offers you an opportunity to get some transparency. You can ask the company directly for information that you may have been stymied on in the past. You can ask, for example, whether or not the company approached Cranberry Business Group and that kind of thing. So this is a great opportunity for some clarity that may have been behind the corporate veil. And obviously the city can participate out of your area of expertise, which is the economic future of this city. So I already applied on behalf of my organization for intervener status, so I can share that with staff, what the different hoops are. And yeah, I'm willing to do that. They put our application up immediately, and you hear in about a week whether or not the commission is approved. And by May 26th, so this is a bit of a deadline, that is the deadline for when you can ask questions of the company. So you would have to get your intervener status before then. And in order to put in a request for information from PREI, you'd have to do that before May 26th. I'd also encourage the city, even if you don't get intervener status, to ask the commission to have hearings in Powell River so that there's transparency. Okay.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward at this time? Do we have anybody online? Thank you.
Thank you.
Move now to general matters. Director of Planning Services, could you come forward, please? One of the more difficult issues we have to deal with. Over here. Excuse me, I'm going to sit down and you stand here. So, on behalf of council,
A different view, hey?
I would like to recognize and thank Jason Gao for 10 years of dedicated service to the city. Since joining us as a senior planner, later stepping into the management role, and now as Director of Planning Services, Jason has played a key part in guiding our community during times of meaningful growth, development, and organizational change. Through evolving priorities, new leadership, and complex development pressures, He has been a steady and thoughtful presence who understands the importance of thoughtful, long-term planning. Bringing both expertise and perspective to the table, his contributions have supported strength and continuity in the organization. We are grateful for the consistency, professionalism, and care he has brought to his work over the past decade. And I'd like to add, I also knew him before he came to the city in another role where he again demonstrated expertise. So please join me in congratulating Jason for his continued commitment to the city. Oh. Showed off here to.
The bling, that's the bling. Thank you very much, yes.
Good.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah, cheers.
Well deserved. Okay, we can now move on to the easy stuff. 8.2 is a proclamation of the Economic Development Week. So whereas a strong and resilient local economy is essential to supporting the well-being, livelihoods, and quality of life of residents of the city of Powell River, and whereas local businesses, entrepreneurs, workers, and community partners play a vital role in driving economic activity, innovation, and long-term prosperity within our region. And whereas the city recognizes the importance of collaboration with the Cathet Regional District, the Kalama Nation, local organizations, and economic development professionals in strengthening and growing our local economy. And whereas Economic Development Week provides an opportunity to celebrate the contributions, partnerships, and ongoing efforts that support economic resilience and community growth in Powell River. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Woznow, hereby proclaim May 10th to the 16th as Economic Development Week in the city of Powell River. Next item is the consent agenda.
I move the consent agenda be adopted for May 7th.
Seconded by Councillor Southcott. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to item 11.1, which is the delegation of purchasing authority bylaw 2817-2026. Corporate officer.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to add from last meeting. If you have any questions, though, I'm happy to assist.
We have somebody that wishes to follow up on the recommendation.
I can move that delegation of purchasing authority bylaw 2817-2026 be adopted.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Elliott. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. 11.2 is the 2026 property tax rates bylaw 2819 and 2026. Do you care to move a motion on this? Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that proper 2026 property tax rates bylaw 2819-2026 be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Isaacson. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. 11.3, development permit 425-4446 Wellington Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's great to be back here this evening. The purpose of today's presentation is to present a development permit application for 4446 Willingdon Avenue. This is the property that I'm sure many of you guys are very familiar with. It's located just a block away from here at the corner of Marine Avenue and Duncan Street, and it's the site of the Marine Traders building. If issued, proposed development will result in 78 square meters of new on-site retail, storage, and office space to the existing building through an extension of the building eastward towards Marine Avenue and the construction of a second-story addition that will sit on top of part of the existing structure, as well as the ground floor addition. With respect to site context, this is a property that's located on the southwestern edge of the city's downtown corridor. It is zoned MX or mixed use and falls within the city's development permit area 3, Marine Willingdon mixed use. With respect to interesting topographical features, the site is characterized by a fairly steep or moderate slope that runs east-west on the property, reaching its lowest point towards its rear, where the existing building is sited. Based on the orthographic image you see on the screen there, you can see that there's a number of parking lots that surround the subject property with access and egress to the subject site made via the parking lot to the south and west of the subject property. In terms of conformance with DPA 3, proposed development is largely consistent with many of the form and character guidelines for Development Permit Area 3, particularly those that speak to building mass, building design, choice of materials, landscaping, bicycle access and provision, with a lot of attention being paid to ensuring that a lot of what's being proposed is, respects and is consistent with both the existing building and the immediate surroundings. Having said that, there are aspects of proposed development that are not in conformance with our DPA guidelines, and that's primarily due to the existing structure, site coverage, its orientation, its siting, some of the topographical features on the site as well, and some of those areas where maybe the proposed development is not consistent with our guidelines concern building orientation, weather protection, as well as pedestrian access to the site. I'll also want to flag for your attention the issue of on-site parking. This is something that will not be able to be met, again, just because of the existing site coverage and the steep slope, on the kind of eastern side of the property. And in this instance, our zoning bylaw does allow for a separate lot to be used for off-street parking, insofar as that lot is within 90 meters of the building or use that's being served, and insofar as that lot is the owner of said lot registers on title section 219 covenant that the lot will be used to provide parking. And so through conversations with the agent and the owner, they have communicated that this is something that they are amenable to, and we have included that as a condition for permit issuance. Barring some of those limitations that I just mentioned, staff have not identified any other outstanding issues. No comments were received from other city departments or from the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, who received the application as part of our referrals process. And so in closing, staff are supportive of permit issuance, being mindful just where conformance is achieved and on the overall merits of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Seeing no questions, do we have somebody wishing to put a motion forward?
Sorry, Your Worship, I did have a question.
Yes, please.
I know I'm tiny on your screen. My question was, we don't often get development permits up for approval at council, and so there must be a reason, and it's probably in the report and I missed it because I'm reading too many screens at once. But could you explain why this particular development permit has to come to council?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, there's a number of conditions as to why development permits come before council. And I think in this particular instance, it's the value of proposed development as well as the size of the proposed development.
Okay, thank you.
You know, further, Councillor,
No.
oh, okay, all in favor? Sorry.
Would you like me to read the
Absolutely. Sorry, he got ahead of us. Please read it.
problem? Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council issue development permit 425 to facilitate the construction of a new addition to the building on 4446 Willingdon Avenue, subject to the registration of a Section 209 covenant in a form acceptable to the city, registered on the title of the off-site parking land, and the payment of a landscape security deposit to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning Services. If there's a
Moved by Councillor Palm.
comment?
Councillor, yes.
I support this wholeheartedly. Certainly lose a lot of money down at that particular establishment over the years. I also want to mention that though parking is a feature of, the report, it isn't, some of the parking is not included anywhere, and that's the parking of boats that do business with this business. Its reputation goes far beyond this business's reputation goes far beyond our community. It's known on the coast. They've provided amazing service to the maritime community for many years. So I just wanted to mention that parking doesn't get mentioned in our official viewpoint here, but it certainly is significant in my view. And not only that, but the parking all across that whole waterfront of all those boats, this business has provided excellent service and prices too. So over the years, I'm really glad to see them doing this development and very happy that they're going to continue serving this community. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments before I call the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move to new business, 14.1, which is the Housing Authority Process Manager of City Development.
Evening, Mayor and Council. The report before you provides information about municipal housing authorities, including their potential benefits, challenges, and the process required should Council wish to explore this further. Municipal housing authorities are one approach to housing delivery. However, they do not provide new legislative powers beyond those already available to the city. Rather, they represent an alternative governance structure. The key consideration is whether that structure would improve the city's ability to deliver housing relative to existing approaches. Some larger municipalities and resort communities have leveraged their unique local characteristics to establish successful housing authorities. However, many more local governments are advancing housing without creating separate entities. Instead, they are utilizing municipal land, seeking partnerships, and using policy tools while maintaining direct council oversight. The City of Powell River has been actively advancing non-market housing through strategic use of city-owned land, partnerships with BC Housing, and securing non-market units through private development. Establishing and operating a housing authority is a complex, resource-intensive undertaking. It requires specialized expertise, long-term financial commitment, and carries financial, governance, and operational risks. Examples from other local governments show that housing authorities take several years to establish and often require ongoing financial support. They also require significant scale to be sustainable. Recent input from the Capital Regional District Housing Corporation suggests that a portfolio of 750 to 1,000 units may be necessary to operate without reliance on financial support from general taxation. During the early stages of developing a housing authority, staff capacity is typically focused on developing the entity, which can limit the ability to advance near-term housing initiatives and other council priorities. The report also outlines the process of establishing a housing authority, beginning with a feasibility assessment that would evaluate if this model is viable and whether alternative approaches could achieve housing objectives more efficiently. Subsequent phases would include strategic visioning, business planning, and implementation. Each stage would require additional resources and multiple council decisions over several years. In closing, municipal housing authorities can be an effective tool in certain contexts. However, they require significant scale, sustained funding, and organizational capacity to operate successfully. The recommendation before council is to continue advancing non-market housing through existing tools, seeking out partnerships and initiatives, and to revisit the consideration of a housing authority in the future based on capacity, priorities, and available opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to take the opportunity to comment first, because at the last Island Coastal Economic Trust, we did discuss various options for creating affordable housing and other housing in smaller communities. And I then was invited by the mayor of Tofino, Dan Law, to visit and see what they have done. So about 4 years ago, they put in place a housing corporation. And in the last 3 years, they've created over 100 affordable housing units using their only 2 city-owned lands. And they've also purchased another property which they had leased because they have to import their water from an island. And so that land that they purchased, they're also putting in another 22 units of affordable housing. So although I understand that housing authorities can be very difficult to put in place, I would like to put forward a motion. I'll rely on our corporate officer whether this would be appropriate time to put it forward.
Yes, Mayor, you could do that at this point in time.
I'd like to move that City of Powell River invite Dan Law, the mayor of Tofino, to present to us on the approach that they took to put in place a housing corporation. Thank you. And again, I was quite taken back by their ability to achieve grants initially to put this in place, but also and I've got pictures which I can share afterwards of the units that they've put in place. And so to me, it's a perfect example of a small community, like 1,600 people, and when you think about it, they've created probably, I think, around 130, once the new ones, of affordable housing. And so in comparison, we haven't created any affordable housing on our city-owned land. So I think that if he comes over and goes through the process, we may understand that the time commitment of staff and the economic impact on our budget may be considerably less than we think. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would say housing authorities in general, or housing authorities specifically, but also alternative approaches for municipalities to get involved in housing provision is a hot topic of ABICC, UBCM, a number of sessions. And so I personally don't actually need to be convinced by the mayor of Squamish. Happy to talk to him or have him join.
Tofino.
Sorry, Tofino, what did I say? Said Squamish. And I say that because the city of Squamish or the district of Squamish they ended up doing a housing society, but their original feasibility exploration was around a housing authority. The mayor of Tofino, I mean, I wouldn't want to pay for a trip by the mayor of Tofino, but happy to have a visit and hear from him. I think what I would be even more interested in pursuing is referring the report back to staff and get a report on the path to phase one, which is a feasibility assessment. I know that there will be costs associated with that, and it's not in the current budget. And so, like, what are the mechanisms to get there? There's only one recommendation. There aren't options, and this has been a priority of. Well, anyways, I'll speak to the motion at hand. I happy to hear from him, but I also have heard so much about housing authorities and other provisions for housing over the past 4 years. I don't necessarily need to hear from him to be convinced to pursue this and explore this a little further. Thank you.
Worship.
Yes, Councillor Elliott and then Councillor Doubt.
Thank you. I have personally talked to and heard from Jen Ford up in the Whistler one about the Whistler Housing Authority. I've talked to the mayor of Squamish about what they did. I've talked to the Capital Regional District about what they've done. I'd be really happy to hear from the mayor of Tofino. He could probably come virtually without too much expense, and so that would be great. I'm hoping to discuss what we're going to do here. I'm not. We're doing stuff over at the regional district too, which I want to update. So once we're past this motion, I'd really like to move on to what we want to do.
Councillor Doubt.
I'm looking at the whole package we've got in front of us, a recommendation from staff. I've read the report, and the truth is that all of the partnership processes that we're willing to enter into, all of the sharing ideas that we're prepared to do have not resulted in any affordable, attainable housing being constructed. I think it's not going to happen magically unless we do something. We're going to have to take action if we want affordable housing to be built, because the fact is the current housing market and ability to build it doesn't exist to build affordable housing that people need. And it's a key need in this community. So I'm in favor of the mayor's motion to invite the mayor of Tofino to come and explain how it works, partially to explain it all to the people sitting at the front of the room here, the councillors, but many of us have talked to the people from Whistler, people from Squamish, people from Comox, people from the Capital Regional District, Tofino, Ucluelet, who all have housing issues and are trying to get them. And it'd be, I think, useful for the public to hear what's possible for a city to do, even a small city, in a short period of time with the land that we have. It's the wealth of this community is the land we have. So I'd like to see us bring a speaker here and do that. And I've got some ideas about what to do if the motion that's in the package comes up, but I agree with the mayor's motion to bring a speaker here. It's not going to cost an arm and a leg, and it would be a good way to have the public hear about what's possible.
Councillor Southcott and then Councillor Pong.
Thank you, Worship. I support the mayor's motion. I'd be happy to see the mayor of Tofino even virtually on the screen here to a committee of the whole meeting, perhaps, just to hear what he has to say. And yes, I'm looking forward to getting on to considering the main motion on the agenda too.
Councillor Pong.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. During this term, I've heard a lot of reference to housing authority in this chamber from various entities. I appreciate the work that staff has done in this report, outlining the cost involved and the massive undertaking that would take for a small community. It may be not all that productive, but I would certainly like to hear from a small community such as Tofino and the mayor, how they were able to garner substantial grant funding and make that a reality for their small town. So I would welcome communication. It goes a long way in terms of what we're dealing with locally. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
I see no other. I'm going to call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. And now we'll go back to any additional questions?
Yes, Your Worship.
Yeah, we haven't had a round of questions quite yet. One of them, so my question relates to, you did some exploration. I know Squamish isn't listed on here. Were they on your list of exploration, or how? I'm thinking of other smaller communities that have made progress. And so maybe there's something that's not in here that you could share about what you know about Squamish.
Through the chair, yes. Thank you for the question. I did review Squamish's materials, and they, I believe you had mentioned them earlier as well. Their journey to a housing society, again, was quite long and part of a larger umbrella of a suite of, tools that they wanted to make available to the municipality, policy, bylaw related. So it was part of a larger initiative, and they've just very recently stood up their society and are working with partners.
Councillor Elliott and then Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really appreciate the report. I'm so happy it came forward. We just, not very long ago over at the regional district, made a decision about the MRDTs to hold them back for a year, and staff is making a report around other things that those funds could be used for and other methods. And some folks over there also have the idea that they might be able to funnel MRDT funds towards some type of housing authority or some other mechanism for getting some housing that's affordable. And so I think what we could do is not necessarily make a decision about this report today, but postpone it and have it come back directly after we've heard from the report on the MRDT, because it represents a unique opportunity where the city has lands and the regional district receives all these MRDTs that are specifically for housing, to maybe do some feasibility studies and land in a spot where we can, along with our partners within the community, like Life Cycle Housing and all of the providers that currently do housing, we may be able to explore something better at that time. So I don't want it postponed to some indefinite time. I prefer to say tie it to the report from the QRD coming out about the MRDT funds, so that we can consider both of those reports at the same time. And so that's the motion I would put on the table when people are ready. And I wanted people to know that we're moving over at the regional district in tandem to try and funnel MRDT funds to a similar purpose.
Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Worship. If that was a motion by Councillor Elliott, then I will second it, because I was planning on making, so that, is that a motion for postponement?
Well, we were
I'd
doing
like
a
to
round of
comment too.
questions. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I don't mind making that motion when we're ready, but I wasn't wanting to cut off council's round of questions. That's all.
Would you like to proceed with the
Yes, thank you.
question?
Yeah, it was kind of along the lines of Councillor Elliott's comments. Actually, I don't really have a question. I more have comments, so I'll reserve them. Thank you.
Councillor Dowd.
In fact, I don't have a question. We should probably stick to questions before we get a motion on the table. And I think everybody's kind of itching to actually debate what we're going to do. So maybe if we had a motion, we could talk about what we do with it.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, would somebody care to put a motion on the table? So Southcott?
Councillor Elliott's got her hand up.
Oh, Councillor
That's
Elliott.
okay. He can make it.
Thank you, Worship. I was thinking pretty much along the same lines. I did send a motion to the Deputy Corporate Officer, and I'll speak to this if I may.
Yes, please.
So basically, I really appreciate the report for more than one reason. One is that it is a strategic priority of council, and it's particularly satisfying to see something that we asked for actually happening. And I definitely am inclined to agree with the recommendation as it is on the agenda package, because I think that for us to do this by ourselves as a city doesn't make that much sense. My experience with different housing groups here goes right back to the beginning of the time that I sat on council, and there's been many different iterations of elected and non-elected people, both business and nonprofits, and a whole spectrum in this community come together to try to figure out what to do or how to advance the interests that are targeted in the report and that are of general interest to our whole region. So the thing is that there's always been a underlying intention to bring more than just have this happen or something happen through more than just the city, but as more of a broad coalition, if you will, perhaps in the community. That's what I would like to see further investigated. So I feel that the motion in the agenda package could be, I believe, more reasonably considered after the RD board receives a report from the RD staff on what to do with MRDT money and possibly what could be done with that. So that's why I moved to postpone consideration of this motion in on the agenda. Thank you.
Councilor Doubt.
Yeah. I'm concur with the idea of postponing the discussion until a later time. I have a little bit of a concern about saying we're going to postpone it until a time determined by what the QRD staff does as far as providing a report to the QRD on the MRDT. I think it's a little confusing to go outside and make the timing depend on another body. And MRDT, for those who may not know about it, is an accommodation tax that is collected by the Destination Marketing Tourism Group, Sunshine Coast Tourism, for the whole West Coast, and they distribute the funds between the various municipalities and regional districts in the Sunshine Coast. Some of it goes to tourism promotion activities, and some of it is earmarked for housing, affordable housing. And, that's a difficult thing to change. And but it can be changed if you get all the parties to agree. It takes a little while though. So I would prefer, and I'm going to make a motion to amend this motion so that it reads that further discussion on a housing authority recommendation be postponed until December 2026, period. And if there's a seconder, I'll explain that.
Second.
Okay. And
Sorry, I just wanted to provide some timely information that might help with the motion that council is looking at doing. And that is that staff have been in contact with Cathett Regional District in regards to this item that both councillors have brought up and are looking to bring something to council. So if this motion was to actually say, instead of the QRD board receives a staff report on MRDT, but references a report from city staff in regards to that initiative, that would be within our control and wouldn't have a date assigned to it. So I just wanted to say that before it got too far down, because staff are at the preliminary stages of having conversations with Cathett Regional District about this.
I like the CAO's wording of my amendment better than my wording of the amendment.
I second
also
that.
agree with that.
Okay, can we see it with the CAO's amendment on there?
From staff, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Dowd, are you happy with what we see in front of us?
I think we were specifically talking about MRDT, but
Again, if councillors have specific information that staff don't have, our conversations in regards to with the QRD were specifically about non-market housing initiatives. It didn't get into MRDT. So if there's other information, the information that was going to be coming forward from staff to city elected officials was in regards to this, specifically non-market housing, not the source of funding for it, which are two separate things.
If I can just finish what I was saying, I think the amendment makes sense. I think postponing this discussion is way better than the alternative that's in the package of deciding to do nothing. I think it moves us forward. We're not exactly certain about what time we're going to move it forward, but it happens at some point. So I support the amendment and the motion itself.
Okay, do we have a seconder for the amendment? Thank you, Councillor
Yeah.
Southcott. Any further discussion?
yes,
Yes. Councillor Elliott.
thank you, Your Worship. I like the motion. I do think this report is coming forward as a result of us wanting to figure out how to use the MRDT better on non-market housing initiatives. But that's kind of splitting hairs, and I don't want to make anything harder than it needs to be, because what happens if the report comes forward and it doesn't mention MRDT just because I thought it was going to? And so I'm in favor of the motion. Thank you.
I'm going to call the motion. All in favor? Or I'm going to call
Amendment.
the amendment for the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. So we'll now move the motion as amended. Councillor Isaacson?
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to speak very briefly to it because I cut myself off in the original motion for the mayoral invitation earlier. This housing authority, I realize, like, I understand the origin of the staff recommendation, balancing the other work that's going on and trying to find a place where there's capacity and priorities and available opportunities. This housing authority has been a priority for this council and the previous council. I don't know about the council before that, but there's that saying, the best time to build housing was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. And so I don't think there's an ever good time to invest resources and money in expensive things, but they are important to the fabric of the community, and it just doesn't feel like market and government approaches to social housing fill all the gaps that are needed in this community. So I'm curious to explore more if this means doing it in collaboration with the QRD based on their non-market housing initiatives. I'm all for it, given the money that they have access to and the land that we have access to. That may not be how things go forward, but I want to explore more. And this provides us an opportunity to hold on it and come back to it when we have a bit more information from the QRD. Thank you.
Okay. See no further discussion.
Your Worship.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I wanted to speak to the main motion now that we're done with the amendment. I'm very much in sync with Councillor Isaacson. I would think that our next step would be a feasibility study, and I think that this potential partner of ours with MRDT will have information germane to maybe how we move forward with potentially a feasibility study and who the players might be and what the scope is and those kinds of things. So I think this is the best way to move forward, is to be careful about how we do that. We're not prevented from doing things we're already doing, which is considering projects like we are doing over on I don't want to say the wrong street name, which I always do, but Barnett, right? Yeah. So I'm in favor of this motion, and I'm also in favor of keeping a housing authority or society or coalition on the table for our community.
Okay, any further comments before I call the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now move to 14.2, which is the Powell River Energy intervenous
Thank you.
status. Yes, Councillor Dote.
No, it's mine. Mine. My name's right there. See, Councillor Elliott.
Okay. Councillor
Elliott.
Councillor Doe was a little closer to me, so
Well,
go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
So I put this item on the agenda, and that's and I wanted to have the opportunity to speak to it before we dive into making motions. Over at the regional district, we've already made a motion to go ahead and apply to become an intervener. There's lots of reasons why we should be hasty about this, not the least of which Ellen Gould pointed out at the comment period, that the sooner we get our toe in the door, the sooner we can ask questions, get information, and have an impact on the process. So I am hoping that we can I could make this motion and then we could move forward. I move that council direct staff to apply on behalf of the city for intervener status in the Powell River Energy Inc.'s PREI 30-year contract export application to the Canada Energy Regulator, CER. And I sent that to staff so that they can put it up on the board, if I can get a seconder.
Can we see it first? Before it's seconded, I've maybe a point of information. This isn't the contract export application process. This is a licensing procedure. And so I know I'm pretty sure I know what your intention is, Councillor Elliott. I want to make sure that we have the language right about what we're requesting intervenous status is. I think it's within the licensing procedure as opposed to the application, but maybe I have the details off.
So that particular wording was what staff over at the regional district came up with, and it was the 30-year export application is a contract that they're trying to do. But we don't need to we could take that word out if you want.
No, if it comes from somewhere solid, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that it's correct.
We could ask staff.
Okay, do we have a seconder for the motion? Discussion. Councillor Dote.
I would have preferred this, actually, I wrote up a slightly different motion because I think we need to be careful. I haven't heard anyone, and I paid attention to the regional district meeting and the discussion that went on there. And one of the issues that I think we should think about is how much it's going to cost the city to participate as an intervener. You don't just have a staff member write a report and do the best they can. These things generally are filled with lawyers and legalese. There's going to be a number of other lawyers present, and they're going to be finding ways to get rid of any of the interveners that they can if they can find legal loopholes to get away from them. So I would have preferred to get a report from staff about the possible costs, benefits, risks. How long is it going to take to be an intervener? How much are the legal fees going to cost? How much is participating going to cost? Are we going to have to pay lawyers to go to Ottawa to argue these things on a number of times. How much are the questions going to cost? I'd like to have a study to tell us just exactly what we were getting into before we did it. I think intervening is a great idea, particularly if we can cooperate with the Tla'amin Nation and make sure that we are all three local, or the two local governments, the regional district, the city, and the Tla'amin Nation are working together towards the same direction. I think we'll all be better off. But I would have liked to see a report ahead of time to give us an idea about what the costs and benefits are going to be, rather than just jumping in with both feet, not looking at the cost, not considering what the outcomes might be. That's my 2 bits worth.
Councillor Palm.
Yes, through the chair, I know we're dealing with the motion on the screen at the moment, which I suppose came through the RD previously. I compare it to what Councillor Doubt has brought forward this evening, and I have to ask the question of staff. Do the timelines allow for their process to play out on a report to come to council? I think the timelines are fairly tight on intervener status. Would Councillor Doubt's motion fit that timeline? Or are we better off going with the simple motion that Councillor Elliott is proposing?
Through the mayor, in terms of actual intervener status and timelines, there is no deadline for participation, but you participate where the process has evolved along the way. And I think we heard at the beginning that there are various things that are scheduled to take place by May 26th, I think is what we heard. And so I would say realistically, a report would be coming to the beginning of June based on getting direction tonight to bring a report forward. So there would be aspects of it that we wouldn't participate in if we were chosen as the intervener. However, as was noted earlier, Tla'amin Nation and the QRD have already put in for an intervener, and one of them already is. So I think the views of the area would still be included even if we came in later in the process. So hopefully that answers the question.
Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Worship. So my question is, I like both the motion that Councillor Dowd has suggested and also Councillor Elliott's motion. So I have kind of a two-pronged question. One is would it be a lot of work to apply for intervener status? And if the findings of staff were that it's not viable, or like it was going to cost us a whole lot, and we had, lawyer fees, traveling to Ottawa, whatever the cost, the risks that might be discovered, are they mutually exclusive? Like, could an application be sent in, and if it became unviable or against council's will to proceed with it, could that intervener, or could the opportunity not be withdrawn? Could both things happen at the same time?
I am not an expert on intervener status. I will just start by saying that what I have done is spoken with the Chief Administrative Officer from Tla'amin Nation just to find out what it's looked like on their end in terms of what they're doing. And the feedback I've got in terms of the process itself is that it's a lot of work and they're getting legal involved in it. And so, not saying that we couldn't do it, but if you're to do it properly, he said that is the case. So that's kind of the second part of your question in terms of whether or not we could apply to be an intervener. And then if we decided that there was too much work, pull out, I would hazard a guess that that's the case. But again, without digging into it, it would just be a guess at this point.
So my comment was, this process has been ongoing for some time. And 3 or 4 months ago, there was a discussion which says it's unlikely that the city would be granted intervening status anyways. I do like the idea of us communicating openly with Klamath Nation, as I feel they will have the most impact on any decision that's made at the federal level. And we could provide them with information which they then could use in regard to intervening status. So to me, that is probably the most effective way, because the cost of the lawyers that you're going to want to hire for intervening status is probably about 800 to 1,000 an hour. So it's not going to take long for that to probably increase the taxes by 1% in 2026, which is a significant amount. So I would encourage council to direct our CAO to be our interface with the Klamath Nation to ensure that whatever they require from us is provided to them, because I expect that they absolutely will have intervening status. Yes. So,
Yeah, so on the Canadian or Canada Energy Regulator website, Tla'amin Nation, Shishal Nation, and BC Hydro have all received intervenor status. And now the RD is applying, and we are a member municipality of the regional district. And so we are luckily represented with either government in an intervenor status, or our residents are, especially given the lakes touch on the, or one lake touches on the city, and the other two both touch in the regional district. I feel like I'm of two minds. On one, the pressure is kind of off, in the sense that Tla'amin Nation is investing numerable resources into this issue, which impact our entire region, and are very clear that they are fighting hard for the protection of many good things that all of our everyone in our region can benefit from. And I think if the RD receives intervenor status, that it would be benefit. Given that those two are already in play, I'm comfortable with getting a bit more information first. I think applying for intervenor status is more straightforward, but the work of actually submitting documents and the responsibilities of a local government to prepare good filings and being good representatives and stewards of our community's resources is a little bit more intensive. So I can be convinced either way on this application, and I feel fortunate to be able to feel that way, because I know that Tla'amin Nation is pursuing the interests of our region, and as evidenced in their filings that are public so far, and that the regional district is pursuing the same. Probably would not, like, Tla'amin is going to be investing a scale of legal resources that the RD in the city wouldn't. Their interests go beyond ours, but ultimately this is a really important issue to our region, and I think that the more pressure on the regulator that exists from different interveners and members of the public that have happened in the past, I think the better. But I think we're in a lucky spot because others have moved before us. So, like I said, I'm also interested in receiving more information, but applying for intervenor status doesn't stop us from getting that information and not investing any further resources once we hear back on that. So I'm waffling, as you can tell. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
You're muted.
Apologies. Thank you, Your Worship. And I think what I'm hearing is our fallback position if we are not accepted as an intervener. We're the government of our community, and we're talking about a process that could alienate power from our own economic development for 30 years. And so while the QRD and the Proclamation and Shishal are interveners and representing their interests. We have our mill lands, the dam on Powell Lake that is our tax base, and the community wants it to more development in that industrial area, and part of the problem there is the access to power that we need in order to make some of those things viable is tied up in this process, and so it directly impacts the city of Powell River maybe differently than some of the other interveners, and our interests may be different, and I think it's the least of which we can do as the government of our community is to get involved in a process that may alienate our economic development potential for 30 years into the future. And so we do need more information. We do need to consider those costs and things, but right now we need to actually apply and see if there's a way for us to be considered an intervener. And then once we made that first step, we may have our fallback position and try to funnel information through the existing parties, or we may decide to limit the budget for how much we put into being an intervener if we do become an intervener. All of those things can still be figured out, but delaying this application is not in our best interests because some of the deadlines are talking about whether we can ask questions directly in the next decision-making process. And that's the May 26th one. Yes, we may not want to put as much legal dollars into it as some other folks do, but we may want to in specifically for the things that are specifically our interests. And so I'm in favor of this motion, and I'm in favor of moving forward without delay.
Just before I go to Councillor Southcott, I want to point out that the Domtar, who owns the old mill site, they've entered into agreements which have not been finalized, but the importance of power to the Klamath Nation is as important as to the Powell River. So Klamath cannot develop their lands the which they want without the energy. Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do support this motion, and if Councillor Dowd doesn't move the second and third points of the motion that he suggested, then I will move them.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask our corporate officer, where are we?
There's a motion on the floor.
Seconded.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a motion on the floor, which has been seconded, and it's on the screen. The council directs staff to apply on behalf of the city for intervener status in Powell River Energy Inc.'s PREI 30-year contract export application to the Canada Energy Regulator. Other motions have been discussed as alternatives, but this is the motion that's on the floor and needs to be dealt with first.
Has it been seconded?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Palm?
Yeah, just one further comment, Your Worship. I'm not in favor of the motion that is on the screen. I think it's, as staff has already stated tonight, they don't even know if they have the capacity to carry on such and the cost involved. By passing this motion, we're putting city at risk. I would much rather entertain Councillor Dote's motion and have a report come forward so that we're fully informed when we cast a vote in this direction as to how it is going to impact the city. And in the interim, regional district, we are partners. We have councillors on that board that are part of the regional district input. Mohammed is working in our regional interests. I rely on our regional partners for further collaboration in this front. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Any other comments before I call the vote? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? The 3-3, so the motion fails. Councillor Delta.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that the City of Powell River give notice to the Commission of the Canada Energy Regulator that the city will request to participate as an intervener on PREI application C35. Gotta put my glasses on. C35954. That council directs staff to prepare a report to council on the possible benefits, risks, and projected costs of staff, legal advice, etc., to the city of the entire intervenor process. And council directs staff to explore a joint approach to the application with the Tla'amin Nation and the QRD. If there's a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Seconded by Councillor
So this provides for the possibility for the city to write a letter tomorrow to the Commission of the Energy Regulator to say that we're going to apply for intervenor status. It asks staff to go away, speak to lawyers who know what they're talking about, know about the process, know about the costs and benefits of doing it, and come back as quickly as possible to council with a reply so that council can make a decision on applying to be an intervener with all of the information, putting down the facts and the things that we will rely on, and going ahead with that, possibly commensurate from that report. And also at the same time to make sure that we're going in the same direction as the Tla'amin Nation and the Cathette Regional District, because if we all work together, we're more likely to achieve something. This may take a day or two longer than the previous process suggested by Councillor Elliott, but I think this is a more responsible way to go. It allows council to know what they're getting into before they do.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as I said before, I was waffling and I supported the previous one and I'll support this one as well. I think the previous one could have also had a report so that we could decide whether to proceed further if we received intervenor status, because the first one doesn't actually, the first part of this motion doesn't actually do much. It's not requesting status, it's just letting them know that we're planning to apply. So really the bulk of this motion is the second item that we're asking report to for staff to come back to us to let us know what are the implications of pursuing this. I actually don't think 3 is necessary in the sense that I think each body, as Councillor Elliott referred to earlier, each body of government has their own interests to protect and pursue, and as evidenced by comments from our CAO, there are conversations that already happen, and I don't. There's not going to be a situation where like coordinating a joint approach, I think would work given the different scales that we're each working, but we can be collaborative and talk to each other, and that's already happening. So for me, the bulk of this motion is its second point, and that's the component of that I'm most interested in. A question through the mayor to staff: how do you interpret the third, or maybe actually a question to the mayor through to Councillor Doubt. What is your intention with the third part of the motion? When you say joint approach, do you mean joint filings or just talking to one another as you approach writing reports and filing submissions? What do you mean by joint approach?
I answer that. So we're entering into a procedure where each party puts their position forward to the regulator. The one group that they absolutely have to include is the First Nations that are involved. There's no question that they have to allow those groups because it's in the legislation that the First Nations have to be considered. So it's in the city's best interest to coordinate and discuss the fact patterns and the arguments that the city is going to make to see if we can make sure our arguments coincide and work well together. That's the point of cooperation. The most important part of that is cooperating with the Tla'amin Nation. And I think you can do that. The CAO and the corporate officer can probably do that informally in the early stages, but if we make a decision to involve legal counsel, then the legal counsel for the city and the Tla'amin Nation could work together to make sure they're providing a coherent argument that has a chance to succeed. The regional district would also do that. It's in my view, always more effective if you can work as a 3-unit team rather than individually go along and try to make up your own answers as you go. It's better if you work together. And that's what number 3 is about. That's why it's there. It's important.
Councillor Pong.
Through the chair, thank you very much. So first of all, I'm in total support of Councillor Dout's motion. It's very clear. Number 1, it puts the Canada Energy Regulation on notice that we are interested in being an intervener. Number 2, it gives us all the facts in terms of a report coming forward on risks, projected cost, legal cost, etc. So we're fully informed when we make a decision on the process forward. And number 3, in terms of what the mayor previously stated about reaching out to both the RD and our friends at Tla'amin Nation, having staff ask the questions and tell them we're in full support of what they're trying to do is a good thing, and will bring us additional information back to this table. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, we have a motion. Yes,
Your
Councillor
Worship.
Elliott.
Thank you. I'll likely vote for this motion, but I do have some pretty big concerns with it. Giving notice is not the same as applying, so it doesn't, as far as the clock goes, it doesn't do anything at all. Because if you're going to apply, you have to apply. You can't just give notice. So that first one is fine. You can send a letter if you want to, but it absolutely does nothing for being an intervener. The second one is a good one. The second bullet is a great bullet, and we could do that after applying for intervener status. There is no commitment to spend money on legal until we make a commitment. Yes, we're going to need to, and yes, we're going to need to know what that's about, but we would want to organize ourselves as to where we want to focus it, what it is that we want to focus on within this process, and those kinds of things. And we can take time to do that once we know whether it's worth doing or not, because we're going to, you have to receive intervener status before that becomes worth spending money on. The third bullet, I think it's excellent to work with people in a collaborative form and make sure we're not contradicting one another. But as an example, if we're in a process where Tla'amin is representing their interest in having access to power for economic development in the future, and they do get a clause within the license that makes them comfortable that they would have access, that doesn't mean different partners that might want to do economic development on the old mill lands would necessarily have access. And so the city, because we're a government over part of those areas, we may have unique needs within this process that we should be representing for ourselves. And so a collaborative approach, one that complements one another, yes. I think joint approach is the wrong way to say that. And so that I have concerns with that too. But if the rest of council wants to do it this way, I will vote in favor, because it's better than not moving forward at all. But it really is a delayed approach that kind of risks our ability to get our foot in the door at a very critical time. Thanks.
Okay. My only comment is that what the company wants to do is to be able to use whatever they want and sell the energy to anybody else. So it's pretty black and white. If they're told they can't do that, then there's the normal process that's been followed for a long time. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? All right, the motion passes. Thank you very much. We will now move to the appointment of our Chief Financial Officer. Is there a plaque that I should present to our CAO, or is it less formal?
Looking for the plaque.
So this is an appointment of the chief financial officer. So all we got to do is read the motions.
I can move that council appoint Jeff Cadman as Chief Financial Officer for the City of Powell River, and that Ken Beauregard's appointment of Interim Chief Financial Officer for the City of Powell River be rescinded effective May 15th, 2026. Sad emoji. Just kidding, just kidding. There's a happy emoji on the first one, but sad emoji on the second one.
Seconded by Councillor Southcott. Expect there will be a significant amount of conversation here, so I'd ask everybody to keep their comments to under 5 minutes. Oh, seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Okay, and now the introduction. Oh, yes.
I really have to say, just, deep appreciation for Mr. Beauregard for his service to us. And, over these months and such, smooth and keeping us smoothly sailing. And thank you so much.
That's my only disappointment, though. I saw that Ken was sitting in the office where my executive assistant used to sit, but apparently he was not offered that job. But thank you very much, Ken. All right, we'll go to the introduction of, public clarification. Subject to the rules, you may ask questions to clarify items discussed during the meeting for a maximum of 2 minutes. Mr. Galinsky, would you like to start? You? Anybody in the audience would like to ask a question? Please come forward if you'd like to ask a question.
Did you know, try to ask a question here. Did you know that a licensing procedure has never been done before? So staff are going to go off and try and find out how it's done, and they're not going to know.
Wait just a second. You asked a question.
Here's my
I'm going to ask our CAO if there is an answer to the question.
There is contact information through the Canada Energy Regulator, and there are people in theory dedicated to assist with those interested in being an intervener. Again, we're playing catch up. We haven't done the process before. So again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't claim to be an expert on it, but we will look into it and we'll get back to council with the answers that we find.
So, did you know that you can do whatever you want? You can set the parameters. You can go as the City of Powell River and say, we need economic development. What have you got to assist the process? What you know about your own economic situation. If they don't want to hear it, that's fine. So you do what you want to do, limiting the exposure of the city to an expensive process. If they accept you, you put in what you want to put in with
right.
off the shelf reports on your economic development. Did you know that?
We definitely know the question and the answer now. Thank you very much. Do we have anybody online? Well, in that case, council is adjourned. Thank you very much.